underneath that thick layer of anxiety, there's the truth. And for me, that truth is that I know that I can do, if I put my mind to it, I know I can do it. And I know that if there's failures in it, it's still going to be okay.
Hello.
Welcome
Or welcome back
to the Womanly Podcast,
where we embrace womanhood in its entirety.
From the hard and awkward conversations
to the silly and embarrassing moments.
An effort to reclaim and redefine what it means to be womanly in this crazy, wacky world. I'm Delana, the neutral one.
I'm Katie, the morbid one.
And I'm Madeline, the other one. And we're so excited that you've joined us today because there's room for you at our table.
So, grab your favorite drink and let's have a conversation. Guys, what are we drinking tonight?
I am drinking a protein matcha and double fisting it with a blackberry bubbly. It's pretty good. It's the
I
first
love
time I've
matcha.
tried blackberry bubbly. And
I
it's
bet that
really
is good.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a Coke.
I'm drinking a root beer Zevia.
Yum.
I think it's stevia's. That would
Yeah.
make sense, right?
Yeah.
So, Caitlin, if you're listening, I'm drinking your drink. I know you like the cola one, but I'm trying out the root beer
This
one.
is the creamy root beer one too, huh? I haven't tried that one.
Yum.
So good.
Dude, Zevia sodas are so good.
All right, I've got our check-in question this week. That's a little bit of a different process for us, but
I know.
I thought about this in the car and I was like, ooh, that would be good. So I want y'all to tell me right now in your life, one blessing and one challenge.
You're going to put me on the spot like that, okay?
You're welcome. That's how it feels.
One challenge for me is I'm going to do my blessing and the challenge, and they're one and the same.
Sure.
The challenge for me right now is that there are a lot of things, and I talked about this in the last episode, I think. There's a lot of things that I want to do and I want to accomplish right now, but it's very challenging because of my health issues. And well, primarily that's really it, is that like I'll have days where I'm just tired, and it's like, it's not normal tired. It's like really, really like you can't function kind of tired.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it really hard for me to do the things that I want to do. And so, but the blessing in that is that I get to learn a lot about my body. I'm very thankful for this journey, but I feel really blessed to have the opportunity where like I see all of these things that I can explore, that I can do with my time if I didn't have these moments of not healing. And as weird as it may sound, like I'm very thankful that I'm like looking at my life and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like all this opportunity that I want to take advantage of. And so I'm thankful for that, and the challenge in actually doing that is the challenge. But yeah.
Mine's similar. I'm blessed by all the new opportunities I have currently, and also challenged by them in a good way. So yeah, pretty much Exactly like you. I'm feeling challenged, but very blessed for the opportunities that have been given to me as of recent, and I am very happy to conquer those challenges and learn new stuff.
That is good.
That's so cool.
Mine's kind of similar too. It's funny. I feel like there are a lot of new opportunities coming, and that, in the next handful of months, I'll have a lot of new things to look forward to, and they'll have their own challenges that accompany them. And even just trying to be patient as they unfold is a challenge in and of itself, because whenever I have something to take action on, I want to take action on it immediately.
Yeah.
And the situations that I've got coming toward me aren't things that I can do that with yet. I have to kind of take my time and wait on some things to get figured out and get some answers, and then I can really pounce on it and do some work and get some things figured out. But so the challenge is and being patient for that, but also the blessing is that I have those things to look forward to, and despite being a little bit frustrated that I may not be able to make immediate decisions and movements right now, I'm feeling really good.
Yeah.
I'm feeling very fortunate and grateful and blessed that I'm where I'm at, and that I have something like these things to look forward to. And it's a good feeling to see some forward progress and some stuff. So it's always nice to have that.
Yeah. I love our answers.
I know. They're so exciting.
Yeah.
For sure.
Exciting times.
That was a good question. Oh, this topic is your topic.
This is my topic.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Take it away, girlfriend.
So tonight we're talking about failure and about not being afraid of it. I think it's one of those things that you're normally, like, you kind of grow up and you see people really afraid to fail, and that it's a little bit more of a negative thing. Failure is a negative thing that you avoid at all costs. It's a dirty thing. You don't talk about your failures. You only talk about and celebrate the successes, and the failures get hidden in a coat closet somewhere, never to be touched again. I think that's so unhealthy. I don't think that there's anything wrong with trying to be successful and trying to avoid failures, but failures are inevitable. And I think that they, instead of thinking about it super negatively and not giving it much brain space aside from that, to think of it as such a huge bad big bad thing, I think that's a disservice. If you can kind of think about it as a growth opportunity and see it as something like, okay, it didn't work out this time, but maybe it will the next, or maybe that's because there's something else. So that was kind of my thought process behind introducing this as a topic for us to discuss, because I know that I have my opinions on it and I'm at a certain point in my journey with it, but I was curious about where y'all were at with it and what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I think as a person whose fear of failure is deeply rooted in people pleasing. Oof.
Yeah.
And I think we can all sort of agree on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where my fear of failure sort of stems from, for sure. That's one of the biggest things for me.
So, and you're saying that you're talking about, you don't necessarily fear like failing, you fear the disappointment from others that comes alongside your failing?
Both, majorly both.
Yeah,
for sure.
For me, it's more that I fear the disappointment from others, because if I fail in a way that it only affects me, it's kind of bad to say, but like I failed some tests in college, and like for me that was like, I had some serious mental health issues and battles that I was going through that I was not even close to being fully aware of at that point. And I just did not care about the fact that I failed those tests, because at the end of the day, I was the only one that affected. Now, several years later, I obviously looked back on that and was like, oh, I wish that I'd done better. But whenever I did things that I knew were going to really affect other people, or cause my parents or teachers or advisors or whatever else to really be disappointed in me, that was something that I feared and avoided at all costs. So there was a little bit of a delineation between the two for me.
Yeah. What about you, Delano?
My current relationship with failure has vastly improved. And it took me a really long time of hearing people say that, like, the most successful people, usually they're talking about it in the form of business, but I think it also stands for relationships and a lot of areas of life, in which people saying that the most successful people are the ones that have failed the most.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that and being like, oh, okay, so yeah, that makes sense. They are successful not because they've done everything right, but because they've done everything wrong and figured out how to do it right.
Right.
And that's whenever I started looking at, my mind started to change about it. And now I see failure as a very, very good thing. Usually, depends on the context, but as like a really, really good thing. It's usually a growth opportunity, whether that's in business or personal life, relationships, whatever. I am a lot less afraid to fail than I ever have been.
Yes. I love how you said, it can be like a learning opportunity. I was reading on the internet, I can't remember who said this, but they said sometimes fear of failure to one person is a great learning experience for someone else or even ourselves.
Yeah.
The great thing about failure is that it's entirely up to us to decide how we look at it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We can choose to see our failures as the end of the world, or we can look at our failure as the incredible learning experience that it often is. Choosing to learn from our failures can be incredibly empowering and healing. And I was like, yes, for sure. Like I'm definitely learning to see the benefits really from failing, and then, you know, going not in like so much of a critical way of like going back and looking at it, not to beat ourselves up, but to learn from it, to really learn from our failures, as they're often
Called.
Yeah.
It's like that saying that people say hindsight is always 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's like necessarily true all the time, because I think even in
Yeah.
hindsight you still have your blind spots. But
Yeah.
I just think about how, you know, there's been many times where I've interviewed for a job that I thought I really wanted and then I didn't get it, and that felt, you know, bad for me because I got really excited about it and I shared it with people. And because I am who I am, I start formulating, you know, where I'm going to live and how this affects my life, and build my whole, like my brain just goes on hyper overdrive to build a whole scenario around this, even if it's not a reality yet. And so whenever you don't get something like that and you think about things the way I think about things, you're not just losing out on the job opportunity, you're losing out on that life that your brain kind of built around it, which is, I need to get better about it, and I have tried to get better about it, but just trying to learn that as I've, you know, done that a handful of times. I'm on my 4th full-time job since I graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
And this is only the 3rd one that I actually chose for myself. And I feel like that I interviewed and chose for myself.
Yeah.
The more that I've been through the interview process and heard no's and stuff like that, the job that comes that actually says yes is almost always 10 times better than the one that I really thought I wanted.
Yeah.
So just kind of going through that a handful of times and recognizing that, like, that you're not getting that, you're not winning them over, that feels like a failure in a way, and like you're losing out on something because of it. But I'm starting to learn that, like, that's not necessarily the reality. That's not necessarily the truth, because there's something so much better usually for you on the other side of that. So that even just looking backwards at that is helping me reframe my mind going into those situations. If, you know, I decide to leave this job eventually and interview elsewhere, and if I don't get those jobs, then that reframes the way I experience that quote unquote failure,
Right.
by not getting that, because I've recognized in the past, history says that there's something better out there. You know?
Totally.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that recently, even getting something better,
Yeah.
wanting something that you thought you really had, and then losing that and being really disappointed, and then something literally a billion times better comes along and you're like, oh, that's why that ended.
Yeah.
That's why I had to like let that go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And I did have that. I lost my job in 2020, and that really felt like a failure in some ways to me. Obviously, it's not like the strict definition of the word, but whenever you lose your job, you feel like it's something that you did. And obviously in that situation, it wasn't anything I didn't. I wasn't ever told it was something I did, but in a situation where they have 15 people and they choose 5 of them to, you know, to let go of, and you're one of the 5, it's hard to not think, like, why was I one of the 5? Why was I? And there's a lot of things that went into that, but I really struggled for a long time with that loss. And it hasn't really been until recently that I realized, like, there was a whole lot of purpose and growth behind that, because what I thought I was aiming for and what I was running after and what I was thinking was what I wanted with that career path I was on, and it was a very fast moving trajectory that I was on, it ends up being that that's not really what I want. I want something more comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
So it really gave me the space to completely rethink what that future looks like for me, because I did go through that.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not the strict definition of failure, but you feel that sense of failure, like you failed in that moment.
Have either of you been so afraid of failing at something that you decide not to try at all?
Whenever I was dealing with the depths of my anxiety, like in my teen years, I was asked to be a worship leader, and I was like, no, I can't do it. No, I was like so scared of not doing it well. I could have done it. It would have been fine. You know, maybe I mean, honestly, I look back on that and I was like, I was so anxiety ridden. I don't even know if I would have done it well, to be quite honest, you know? And so maybe it was a good thing that I didn't do it. But, yes, I've had moments like that where somebody asked me to do something. That's like the first one, obviously, that comes to my mind. But, outside of that, I think that I, to a fault, took on things even whenever I didn't feel ready to take them on, because there was like, my dad's voice was in my head and it was like, what? That's such a great opportunity. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you? You know, and I couldn't reason with myself. And so I would just say yes, even if I didn't feel prepared to. Even if I wanted to say no is a good way to say that, which opened up opportunity in my life, but also rid me with anxiety. So
yeah, I agree. I'm definitely one of those people who had to learn to say no. I can't think of it. I'm sure that they exist moments where I've said no to things because I felt too nervous about what the outcome might be. But more often than not, especially on the big stuff, I've always said yes to it, despite what I might feel like going for my master's degree. I was the first person ever in my family to get a master's degree, or even to attempt it. Thank you. Yeah. So I had no idea. Girl. Yeah. I had no idea what that was going to look like. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it, or what, you know, how difficult it would be, how to get in, or anything like that. So I took that on completely unaware of how it was going to go, knowing full well that my undergrad was really difficult, and there were many times I didn't even think I was going to finish that, but I did. So that's one of those things. And even going through my master's degree, there were a lot of times whenever I thought I wasn't going to make it, you know, and like I put so much pressure on myself to succeed in this, and I did. I mean, anybody else on the outside was looking at what I did, and you know, they'll look at that I'm the first in my family to do it. I paid my way through. I got a 4.0. Like, you look at any of those number of things, and that's like the ultimate picture of success for somebody to go through their master's degree. And I was like petrified the whole time I did it, and so terrified of failing because I put so much pressure on myself to do it. But I still did it. So that's kind of been my approach to things, is that even if I have been afraid of failure, or even just afraid of the work that it takes to make something a success, I think I'm more often afraid of the work it takes to make something a success than I am a failure.
Oh,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
But I do it anyway. Like, I'm one of those people that I had to learn to say no, instead of telling myself to say yes to things, even if I was afraid.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, it kind of goes into like my history with depression and being really scared to try to get better, and fear of failing that I will not. That journey and like, yeah, just like the small possibility that I wouldn't feel better, even though I'm working so hard to feel better.
I can't relate to that at all.
Liar.
Right.
Me literally eating like lettuce. I hope this makes me better.
Yeah, I think the fear of failure, of not feeling better stop me from wanting to try at all, because that might be more painful than feeling bad.
Because you know
Which
what
is-
it's like to feel the way
yeah,
you're feeling,
which
but
is-
not.
It's
Yeah.
just, ridiculous, because
Yeah.
it's like, if you don't try, then, nothing's ever going to get better. But if you try, at least something might happen.
Yeah.
Something good will probably most likely happen if you're
Yeah.
working toward
Most likely, you're not gonna feel worse.
Exactly.
Probably.
Yeah. I've been trying to sit here and like figure out how to articulate exactly what I feel like my biggest struggle with my fear. Because even though my relationship has improved, it's not like I'm void of the fear of failure, you know?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like I said, I think a little bit of fear, I think a little bit of failure is good. I think even like a little bit of fear of failure is good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that like I am most afraid of, and I think this is some sort of weird form of fear of failure, which is that I'm most afraid of like not knowing how to do something. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like,
it
does.
and that like goes over a lot of things, like not knowing how to do something in work, and feeling like I should know how to do it, or not knowing how to build relationships with other humans. That was my biggest one, was just kind of like, I felt like I didn't know how to be a likable person.
Yeah.
you know?
Friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to be a friend, and that felt like like the epitome of a failure as a human being, because I felt like that was something that should be just natural, is to be able to
Completely relate with that.
I
Actually,
can too, for sure.
really.
Yes.
I always felt. I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but
No, go.
I always felt like so other from everybody else as a child. I mean, I think even from like 13, no, I'll say like 11, 12 and younger, I always felt very other. I was a very imaginative, creative child, and I lived in my own world. And I was very, like, I wanted to be in my room all the time and not really like interact with other people. Like, it wasn't easy for me to do things and relate with people the way other people seemed like they were doing things and relating with one another.
Yeah.
And I realized that was like the first 11, 12 years of my life. I definitely felt that way a lot. And it's something I had to be kind of somewhat reminded of, because those aren't comfortable, happy memories. Because there was a lot of work that went into that for me, because I tried really hard to fit in, but I didn't try so hard that I was like completely altering who I was. I've never believed in that, but it was interesting to hear you bring it up, because that was something that I was reminded of again this week. I did feel as though I didn't have an easy time being a human being in the way that I thought everybody else had it easy. And maybe they didn't. Like, I can recognize that maybe they didn't.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Maybe
me,
it was just a perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, if my whole family sees it, then maybe not.
Not a
but-
perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely relate with that.
Yeah. I think I always felt like I had to live up to what my family would say about me, because like, even though I couldn't make friends, my family would, like, all my siblings would be like, I need your advice, because like Delena's the wise one, Delena's the talented one, Delena's the prodigy child, if you will.
Oh, I was told I was the weirdo.
The weirdo.
Yeah, the sensitive
Well,
one.
they never called me the prodigy child.
Yeah. Oh, that was what you heard.
That was the Delena's the perfect child. My mom did call me the peacemaker,
Yeah.
because I was the middle child, and that messed me up. Because I was like, I'm supposed to keep the peace, okay?
Yeah.
And now I'm probably the one that keeps the least peace, which is hilarious. But I probably at this point caused the most ripple, or like, ruffling of feathers and stuff like that, because I won't be bulldozed anymore.
I'm the same way.
Really?
Yeah. Like, seriously, the same person living in two bodies.
But yeah, I think that that did set me up in like this oh my gosh, I am the people pleaser because I'm the peacemaker and I'm the talented one and the wise one and blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And we could go into all the reasons why I became the wise one, because you only become the wise one if you're in a really messed up situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because somebody has to be.
right. But that doesn't matter. It's just that, like, I don't know. I think is what has become my biggest fear, is like the failure to, I feel like saying the failure to please people is too shallow of a way to put it.
A lot of people would relate with that, though.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
I think so too.
I mean, if you're a people pleaser, the reason why you're a people pleaser is because you're afraid to not please people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a fear.
You know what? It's not here's why I feel like that's too shallow. It's because it's not necessarily a fear of pleasing people. It's like, I think that I grew up feeling like I was supposed to be the missing link.
Yeah.
And if I
If
can't
you're
fill in
not-
a gap for somebody, then I've failed to
It's a
to do
fear.
what I exist for.
Yeah, it's like a fear of not meeting a need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever you first started talking about all of that, I was curious, and the question came into my mind, and you kind of strayed a little bit. So I'm gonna ask anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Are you more feared? Are you more afraid of failing by making a mistake, or are you more afraid of failing because you're incapable of something?
Incapable.
Yeah.
Like, not that's my biggest fear, is like that I was not capable of doing something. If anything will rub me the wrong way, it's somebody saying something that insinuated that I didn't have a handle on the situation.
Yeah. So if it's just like a mistake, it just doesn't bother you the same way.
No.
Yeah.
I'm like, I
feel the same way.
most mistakes, I'm just kind of like, nah, I'm human.
Yeah. Right.
What'd you expect?
Yeah. It's not because I'm incapable in that moment when I make a mistake. It's that I'm overly capable and overcommitted.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
It's
I
like the
feel the
pride. There's a
opposite.
pride aspect to that for me anyway.
Mistakes eat me from the inside out.
Really?
Yeah.
Like
Even
simple,
the smallest ones.
innocent mistakes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's how Sam is too. My husband.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
So I have a question for both of y'all then, after having said that. Do y'all, is it easy for you to admit that you've made a mistake?
I would say it hasn't been like
Small, big, whatever, in between.
now, yes. I think marriage has changed my
Marriage will do that.
my heart, softened my heart in that area for sure.
Mhm.
And I am glad to admit I made a mistake. But
Yeah.
I think even in like my late 20s, it was still hard for me to admit that I made a mistake because, oh my gosh, like
You're so
I don't
afraid of
wanna-
it.
Yeah, I don't
Mhm.
want to disappoint myself. I don't want to disappoint the ones around me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How do you feel?
I have a hard time recognizing when I've made a mistake.
But if you've
Mhm.
recognized it, do you have a hard time admitting it?
Yeah.
You do?
I do.
I don't have an issue with it. And I was curious as to like with you being afraid of the mistake failures and you being afraid of the
Oh,
incapable
interesting.
failures, if there was, because I'm
But this
afraid
I
of the
feel like-
incapable ones. And so I
Oh.
was curious if you felt similar to me in that I don't mind admitting mistakes,
Mhm.
but I have a real damn hard time admitting that I'm incapable of something or don't know something.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
it for me. Because I was going to say it depends on the situation. If it's like a mistake, like, okay, I'm building this productivity system for my company and I forgot to put in a certain automation in the board. And it was just like a simple, oh, I forgot to do that. Easy for me. I'll just be like, oh, I forgot to do that. I'll fix it. If it's I set up a string of automations and that turned out to be the wrong thing after people started using it, that's where I'm like, it hurts to admit that I was wrong. And I was incapable in setting up the correct string of automations because I
Yeah.
didn't predict correctly.
Yeah, I'm very much the same way. So I was curious just in having this conversation, just knowing that you and I are so similar and we we're matching. Because for me, I don't mind if I make a mistake, especially after having the same thing occur over and over and again. If you could admit, like, if some, there's been times where my boss will email me about whether or not I'd released a check to pay a vendor. And maybe it's something that I let slip because I had other things that I had going on. 9 times out of 10, if you're just like, oh, dang it, I forgot to do that, I'll do it right now, they're going to react so much better than if you're like, you make up some big excuse, defend yourself, you lie about it, whatever else, which is the immature way to handle a situation like that. But if you're afraid of failure, admitting to mistakes, that's going to be your natural inclination. But the person who's asking you those questions is going to respond so much better if you're honest about it and you say, I'm going to fix it right now. Than if you're to, create all this other blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, just to try to prove
Try to pretend like you did it and you didn't,
Yeah. I have another internet question.
Go for it.
Has fear of failure ever meant that subconsciously you undermine your own efforts to avoid the possibility of a larger failure? That's kind of...
Repeat it again. I missed the last part. I need to hear again.
Yeah. So has fear of failure ever meant that subconsciously you undermine your own efforts to avoid the possibility of a larger failure?
Like you believe that you're capable of less, or you tell yourself, oh, I can't do that, to avoid the possibility of failing at something bigger.
I think so.
The way that I'm processing that question is I'm thinking, like, if I were to put on an event and I had the budget to put on an event that, could bring out 100,000 people, get a lot of attention, but I'm really afraid about how that might go because it's first time or whatever else.
Yeah.
How about I save money on it?
Exactly.
And do an event that's like 20,000 people. Doesn't get as much attention.
Yes, I think that's
but you're undermining yourself because what you're doing is you're not operating at full capacity because you could do that 100,000 person event and it could be a huge success and a lot of people would have fun and blah, blah, blah. But you're more comfortable holding back a little bit just because if the 20,000 person event is a failure too, it's not as big of a failure.
Right.
That's the way I'm processing that question.
That's good.
I would say
I like how you processed it.
I think that that's a correct translation of
I
that.
would think so too, for sure.
I would say that I have felt the desire to do that. I don't think I've ever acted on it. Most of the time, if I take something on, like, it's either like, nope, I am not doing that. I'm incapable or whatever. Or it's what usually happens, which is, no, I'll do it and I'm going to do it all the way. Like, I'm going to overdo it, like I'm going to put 110% into it and wear myself into the ground doing it. So I'll get that 100,000 people to the event. I'm going to get 120,000 people to the event. But I'm literally going to kill myself because I made myself so anxious about this big endeavor that I took on that deep down I believe I'm not really capable of. And so I feel like I have to overcompensate with overcompensated efforts, basically.
I'm similar. I will make myself go 200% for weeks on end until I literally hit a brick wall. A few times. I think my biggest thing is that as much as I fear I'm not capable, I know that I am. Yes. So I think the fear is like the surface level reaction and feeling about something, but deep down, I know. And I think, again, that's just an anxiety thing, right? Because a lot of my anxiety is like dread and fear and worry over stuff. Everything that could go wrong and wanting to have like a complete hold and control over something. But deep, like,
watch it play out before it actually happens so you can know what to do.
Underneath that thick layer of anxiety, there's the truth. And for me, that truth is that I know that I can do. If I put my mind to it, I know I can do it. And I know that if there's failures in it, it's still going to be okay. And I am a perfectionist that, like, if I do have an event and there are things that don't go right, which is every single event.
Right.
There's never an event that goes on that's totally perfect. There's always going to be something that goes wrong. And honestly, that's part of the reason why I love what I do, because I get the chance to problem solve on the day of. And that's just really satisfying to me whenever you can do that successfully. But so literally we're talking about all of this, but my job is like countless opportunity over and over and over again to fail at something. But whenever you have countless opportunity over and over and over again to fail at something, that opportunity is the same opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
So I think deep down, I recognize that that's the truth, and my going for it is based on that truth, not based on all the anxiety and fear and worry that makes me want to shrink back and do less.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all.
It does.
Totally.
Definitely.
What has been one of the biggest failures of your life, and how did y'all learn from it?
Oh.
Mine has been like, and again, it's not a strict definition of failure, but having lost that job in 2020, because it felt like all the work that I put into going through undergrad and grad school and the internships and the part-time jobs and the full-time jobs and everything that I'd done up to that point to get that job that I had, and obviously I can't talk about exactly what it was or what I was doing. People who know me know what I'm talking about, but it was something that people were really in awe of, that I would, and anybody in my industry was looking at like, oh wow, this is significant that that you're doing this. And it would have granted me, and it still might, I don't know, but it would have granted me a ticket to a lot of places that I might have wanted to go to next. And to have that taken from me when I wasn't ready, when I wasn't expecting it, felt like everything I'd ever done up to that point was worthless. And it felt like a huge failure. And so to me, I look back on that. That was the hardest thing for me to get over, hardest thing for me to mourn. I really didn't mourn it for a long time. I went from that to something that was well below my pay grade, something I was incredibly overqualified for. Still did it to the best of my ability. And was grateful to still be working and to have a job and income whenever a lot of people in similar circumstances to mine in 2020 did not have that. But it really felt like I took an enormous step back, and like it was a huge failure on my part, that if I tried harder, done things differently, maybe I wouldn't have experienced that or gone through that. And again, the truth below all of that is that that's not the case. I would not a lot of what I could have done would have changed what happened. But that for me was the biggest sense of failure I've ever had over anything. And what I've learned from it is that sometimes it's good to lose the best thing that you feel like you've ever been given in order to reevaluate where you're at, to decide whether or not it is the best thing, if it's what you want. Is there something else that you might want better? Are you so enamored with it because of the way other people react to it? Or, just like totally take that whole thing. You've been forcefully removed and put on the outside so that you have a completely different viewpoint and vantage point on the whole thing. And I learned so much, and it took me months to be able to look at it from that lens, to be able to learn the lessons that I needed to learn and to grow and change the way that I did, where my career wasn't my sole focus anymore, because it was for a very long time. I'm a very career-oriented human being. I have been forever. I probably always will be. Still am to an extent at this point, but to have it ripped from you, they told me on a Thursday, and like that next, not within the week, but like 6 working days later, I no longer had that job. So it happened really quick, very violent. Like it felt violent. But yeah, to have that ripped away from you and to look at it from an outside lens, everything that you were and had been, and the work that you did up to that point, there are so many lessons in that, and I know I'm better for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Dude, talking about your biggest failure is hard.
It's
It's like embarrassing, you know?
well, and if you don't want to, you don't have to.
I know, but I think I feel compelled for this podcast to be really vulnerable, you know? So, there's a couple of things that I thought of, and this one just felt really like it put me down. I'm not sure that it was like, well, I know it wasn't really like a failure on my part, but it made me feel that way, which was whenever I got with Sam. Basically, I was the worship leader at a church, and the pastor's wife, I told her about a dream that I had, and I was like, what do you think it means? And basically her translation of the dream was, you're not supposed to be with Sam. And I was like, I'm not comfortable being here anymore.
Yeah.
And so that turned into a whole thing, and I was the worship leader, so I felt like I was letting people down by leaving at that time. But that was just kind of like a non-negotiable for me. I was like, even if this is going to make me feel like such a massive failure, like I'm letting all these people down, how do you stay somewhere that's like telling you that you're not supposed to marry the love of your life?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Because of a dream.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I was like, I think it means something very different, actually. But it's okay. I think that she was genuinely doing what she thought was the right thing to do. And so I don't want to say that's all that matters, but you can at least take that in.
There's some credit to that.
That if they feel like they're doing what is the right thing, then it's the right, you know.
Yeah,
it's not the right
they're not
thing.
trying to hurt you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not malicious.
Yeah.
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 What about you, Katie?
Several years ago when I went to YWAM, we went out of the country, went on this mission trip, and I just could not grow where the Lord planted me in that season. Like, I was anxious. I wanted to go home. I was struggling with major depression and didn't know it. And my leaders were like, you know, literally, we'll send you home if that's what you want. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want to go home. I just don't know how to not feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
We were there for a whole month and a half before I unpacked my suitcase. And one day, the Lord like broke down all my walls and was like, you need to wholeheartedly be here. This is where I've put you. And so like, I literally just like started unpacking my suitcase 2 weeks before we left and like put all my stuff in its rightful place where it should have been all along.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a learning opportunity for me, was just to be right where the Lord's put you, wherever he's put you, no matter how hard it is. And it was never comfy. And God was just like, it's not meant to be comfy. Be here and unpack your suitcase and just let all of that go and let me do the work. The lesson in that was definitely to grow where you're planted, and it was a hard lesson, and truthfully it still is sometimes to just grow where you are and find new things to grow on and grow from. I think I felt like I was failing everyone around me. I felt like I was failing God. I felt like I was failing my leaders. I felt like I was robbing myself from the joy of like really just being there and ministering to the people around me. So yeah, I would say that's been one of my biggest fears.
I think that's a good lesson, though. When you talk about getting settled and stuff and growing where you're planted, it took me 2 jobs and a year and a half after losing my job to feel like I was like, okay, the ground's underneath me again. I can kind of, I can unpack my suitcase and settle a little bit. So
yeah, unpacking Unpacking our suitcases is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. Yeah, for sure. That's a good lesson.
Yeah, so that's one of the good lessons that that failure was not a bad thing in that instance.
Mhm.
And I learned that I didn't really fail God at all. I believe he was able to do the work through me that was meant to be done all along.
Mm-hmm.
And I left there feeling very, very filled up by what the Lord had done through all of us and those people's hearts. And
well, and even though you had that season, he's still working through that in you too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. Some closing thoughts I have. A little something I wrote down for us to remember is just that fear of failure can only stop us if we allow it to.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
We're the only ones separating ourselves from giving into the debilitating fear of failing and letting it overcome us.
Mm-hmm.
And the lesson it begs to teach us. Failure is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I got chills.
Agreed. That's
That
like full
begs
circle.
to teach
That's
us.
full circle to what I said in the beginning.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. When you said that, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I wrote that
That's so
down.
perfect. Yeah. I've not that I've ever gotten to the point where I feel comfortable like welcoming failure. Like, oh yeah, I'll fail in this.
Yeah.
Give me that lesson. Like, no. I
No,
don't think
it's
I'll
not
ever get
ever
to that
comfortable.
point, but
yeah.
It's definitely after having been through it a handful of times and like knowing that there's a lesson or an opportunity to succeed on the other side of it, it makes the sting a little less harsh.
It does.
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah.
Of course, everything, there's like a spectrum. Some of them are harder than others, but yeah, don't fear it. Or you can fear it. There's a healthy level of fear, but don't let it have control over you and your decisions and what you decide to go after. If you really, really want something, go for it.
Yep.
Maybe don't go as hard as Delana and I go. Let us be a lesson of what not to do in those moments.
Yeah.
But don't let failure be the reason why you don't do something you really want. Let it just be what it is. Failure is failure. That's it. It's not a big monster in the closet just waiting to get you. So
Right.
yeah, it's a good thing. It can be a good thing for sure.
Yes, it can.
So what are y'all looking forward to this week?
It's Thursday, so I'm going to be looking forward to the 4-day weekend.
I have a lot of fun things to look forward to. I have 3 parties potentially this weekend, which is the most that I could possibly say ever.
Wow.
Y'all say wow. You're going to all 3 of them too.
No.
Well, you're not, but Delana will be at all of them. You got invited to all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be a fun weekend. Getting to see friends, both those that I am still very close to and those I've not seen.
It's a high school reunion.
Yeah, high school reunion, 10-year high school
10-year.
reunion.
Crazy.
So,
And I get to go because my husband graduated 10 years ago.
And I get to go because my husband was part of it. I was not. I got my GED.
So it will be a really fun weekend, just spending time with friends and communing with one another and getting some drinks and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. And it's also Father's Day. So
Super fun.
all you daddies and daddy figures out there, happy Daddy Day.
Happy Daddy Day.
And if you're a bad dad, then go eat dirt.
You get coal.
Yeah, you get coal in your stocking for Father's Day. No, I hope everybody has a good, safe weekend, but especially us because we're going to be having a lot of fun.
A lot.
Good-
Delana,
good-
what about you?
good,
Wait, did you
wholesome
just say
family
yours?
No, I haven't said mine yet.
Go for it.
Delana, what about you?
What am I looking forward to?
Spending 3 days in a row with us.
I
With
am
me?
looking
With me,
forward.
at
Yes. I can't wait to like
You're gonna be
actually
sick
hang
of
out
me.
with you guys.
I know, instead of working on the podcast.
Instead of working on the podcast. Even though it never feels like working.
I know it doesn't.
No. Anyways, I am very much looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward, hopefully, I don't know, at some point tomorrow. Okay, so basically I have made, like, today I made like this mental list of like, okay, there's this business that I want to start. what are all the things that I need to do in order to start that business? And I made like this mental order of like how things need to happen in order for me to get the ball rolling. And so I'm excited to start working on that.
Yeah,
I'm excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah,
that'll be fun.
Yeah, hopefully I can make some good headway this week.
Yeah,
we shall see.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
All right.
okay.
Talk to you later.
Wear your sunscreen.
Drink your water. And be kind to yourself.
Bye.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us again for this week's episode of the Womanly Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media to hang out with us in between episodes and see pieces of our conversations that we don't get to include in these episodes, plus all of our bloopery humanness. We're on Instagram at Womanly Pod and TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Womanly Podcast. We hope to hang out with you more there. Have a super womanly week.